tuned into
New England's #1 for hip-hop, SparkFMOnline.com.
I know you're going to dig this.
Y'all remember when you were young and dumb and in high school and just, what was it? The teenage love affair? Like, you had a little boo thing and y'all were, can't wait to get home. And baby, dial your number. Can you pick up the phone? Valentine's just passed. So I don't know if you were with your love, if you were looking for love, if you even celebrate celebrate Valentine's Day. You might be like, yo, I don't even celebrate that. But either way, love is in the air. And not only love, black love is in the air. We had a black love conversation last week. But this week, we are moving into a Black Boston history conversation, which I'm super excited to have James Pierre and Dart Adams in the studio. Clap it up for them. Let me hold on. Let me get some effects right now. Hey, vibes. Okay, good morning. Okay, if you're just now tuning in for the first time, you are listening to The Wake Up with Keisha the Entertainer right here on Spark FM. We got James Pierre and Dart Adams in the studio. We're talking about Black Boston, how our history is documented, preserved, and lived through journalism, art, and community and storytelling. This topic matters right now because, Black History Month often reduces Black history to moments and figures while ignoring the everyday people, spaces, cultural work that actually sustain Black life. So in a city like Boston, where Black history is both deep and routinely erased, it's critical to ask who controls the narrative and how do we protect it? So I'm so excited to have these two in the studio today. I'm just going to give you just a little teensy bit about who they are, because that's the whole thing. You may not even know who they are, okay? I just got hip, personally. I just personally got hip, and so I'm putting y'all on because it's only right that I put you on to the people that I got hip to, because, they're going to change your life. I know that's a lot. I know that's a lot of pressure. Okay, so that's the thing. Oh, let me turn on y'all mics. I know that's a lot of pressure. Dart is very confident in himself. So he said it's not a lot of pressure. But okay, so James Pierre, that is your whole government name, okay, is a Cambridge, Mass-based arts advocate, cultural curator, and educator dedicated to expanding access to the arts and preserving Black culture through community-centered creative spaces. I'm going to give him a chance in a minute to introduce himself because he has a very interesting view on what he says about himself, okay? He doesn't call himself an activist, okay? Though the work it's giving activism, but I'll let him explain that, okay? And then we also have Dart Adams, who is a native Bostonian. He's a journalist, a historian, a lecturer, a researcher, and an author. His work has appeared in various online print publications, including Complex, NPR, Mass Appeal, OK Player, The Emancipator, ESPN, The Bay State Banner, Boston Globe, Boston Magazine. Okay, he also has some books out. Okay, they include Instead We Became Evil. That's very interesting. A true story of survival and perseverance, and the upcoming On Track, The Chronicles of DJ Amir. So first, I'm going to go to James. I want you to introduce yourself in the way that you want people to know you, and tell us a little bit about your life's work, why you do what you do, and why is it important.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Is that better?
That's better.
All right. Thank you for having me. How you all doing today?
We're amazing.
All right. Well, thank you again for having me. It's always tough when people ask you to introduce yourself and talk about yourself, but James Pierre, James ADS Pierre from Cambridge, Mass, arts advocate, founder of the ADS Arts Initiative, platform that I use to advocate for the arts, specifically Black arts culture. And we do so by hosting an annual Arts in the Park event. We also host programming pretty much to bring people in to have fun around arts and try our hardest to answer the why behind arts, the why support it, why get involved, why pay attention, and so on. We've been going we're about to hit our 5th year for our Arts in the Park event.
Dope.
Yeah.
That's so dope. Thank you so much. And Dart, tell me a little bit about yourself. What is your life's work? What do you do? Why is it important? And how did you get started?
All right, so Boston, South End, Lower Roxbury, born and raised. Was born in Boston City Hospital, lived right 2 blocks away from it. So they say God doesn't make mistakes. So I lived on Mass Ave between Columbus and Tremont. Directly across the street from me was Ella Little Collins, Malcolm X's big sister.
Wow.
End of my block was the NAACP building. Directly across the street from that was the Harriet Tubman building.
Yeah.
And all in my neighborhood were all these activists, all these people that like worked for the community. Mel King was one of my neighbors. Alan Rohan Cricht was one of my neighbors. People would tell me, and then when I was like the wide-eyed kid on the stoop, and people would tell me stories. You know, Sammy Davis Jr. used to live in this neighborhood. You know, Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta met in this neighborhood. You know, this person was over here. You know, howdy ho, man. I was like, yeah. It was like his sister Blanche was a band leader, and she used to have these things. Like people would tell me all the history of Black Boston.
Yeah.
You know, Malcolm X used to hang out over here. You know, I used to smoke weed over here with Miles Davis. I was like, you lying. And then when I went and did the research, I realized they weren't lying.
Wow.
Everything they told me was true.
Wow.
Like people would tell me like, you know, Quincy Jones used to live on Pembroke Street. I'm like, every famous black person was in Boston.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, yes, they were. And so I lived down the street from what they called the Jazz Corner. And they would tell me stories of all these legendary jazz clubs, lounges, and they were like, everybody was here. People left Harlem to come here.
Wow.
Because they got on the train and then they got off at Back Bay Station. And then they would tell me like all these legendary things. And at the time I was living there, I was born in 1975. At the time I was living there, every 3rd building along my street was burnt down. They didn't even like paint at the crosswalks. There was like cracks in the sidewalk. And I was like, what do you mean this neighborhood has all this history in it? So when I was growing up, I realized that all these things I was being told and I researched and realized were true. I was like, nobody knows that about Boston. Boston is some of the worst PR in the history.
Awful.
And Boston is so important to the Black history and history of this entire nation.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things don't happen in this nation in terms of Black history in America without Boston or Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So I remember I arrived at Morgan State University. It was January 6, 1996. I'm at Old Corner Hall, Morgan State. I get there. It's a snowstorm. So it's like 150 dudes all snowed in, can't go anywhere. So people start asking everybody where they're from. And like, I'm from Boston. And everybody stops and you can hear like a record scratch. And you're like, they got Black people in Boston?
The age-old question. That's what everybody want to know.
HBCU with people from Delaware and Philadelphia and all over Arizona. And they all in unison said, there's Black people in Boston. I'm looking at the folks from Delaware like, you asking me if there's Black people from Boston?
Exactly.
So from that day forward, I was like, I'm going to have to educate people on Boston's Black history.
Yeah.
And some people, it's like a burden for them. For me, it's a calling. For me, it's a responsibility. Being a Black Bostonian is a responsibility. And that's kind of been my thing. I'm like, they say, my mom used to say something, when you know better, you do better.
Period.
So if you don't know about Black Boston culture and history and art and what has contributed, then you're going to be in the dark. And I'm going to bring you into the light.
Yeah. And thank you. And that's so dope. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so happy and I'm so blessed to have you on the show today, is because when I came across your page, I was just like, wow, like, one, I knew that, you know, certain black like prominent figures were here, but just not in the way that you're putting it. You know what I'm saying? Not in the way that you're putting it. And I'm like, yo, there's so much history here that we don't know. We don't know that we were a part of the epicenter. We don't know that there's no history without Boston. Yeah. And it really is, it's very much whitewashed. It's very much pushed to the side. It's very much, we don't want y'all to know this.
Well, I mean, you think about the Harlem Renaissance. Everybody knows about the Harlem Renaissance. Do you know the father of the Harlem Renaissance was in Boston and Massachusetts before he went to Harlem?
Nope.
Who knows
Not
that?
at all.
They leave that, they frame that completely out. I found that out and I was like, wait a minute. Hold on. So and then like when you think about literature and all these other things, it's like, where did all these people with the salons in Harlem, where did they like know each other from?
Yeah.
And I found out that the first magazine of its kind was in Boston, and it had two offices, one around the corner from where I live now on West Canton Street, and another one further down in like Park Plaza or Park Square. And I'm like, wait. So all these people, and the magazine was so popular and it was so big that a prominent black man from New York stole it, usurped everybody in power, and moved it to New York where it died.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. So like and then like it ultimately like inspired the creation of the Crisis magazine, which was NAACP's magazine, and W.B. Du Bois started it. But like the NAACP started by a bunch of people from Massachusetts, specifically Roxbury, and the NAACP office that was down the street from me was like was the first office of the NAACP, and the woman who lived across the street who helped found it, and her husband was the president at one point, started a lot of the ones along the Eastern Seaboard, the NAACP chapters. And I'm like, nobody knows this about Boston, and it just pissed me off to the point where I was like, well, I can get mad or I can educate people.
Yeah. So that's so dope. That is so dope that you take it as your calling, you take it as your responsibility, and it was ordained. It was ordained. It was supposed to be exactly the way that it is. So James, like, when did you first realize that documenting, preserving, or creating Black culture in Boston wasn't just a passion, it was like a responsibility or a call for you?
Good question. So I spent a good amount of my early career working, doing youth work. I worked for Cambridge youth programs. Specifically, Cambridge is broken up to neighborhoods. I was in the port at the Area 4, now the Bob Moses youth program. We were very, very basketball heavy in our programming. I mean, we did basketball from fall to summer.
Yeah.
And a lot of the budget, a huge part of the budget, from what I saw on the outside of just being a youth worker, went to basketball. And for me, it was problematic for me. As a youth worker, you have a bunch of different young people in the program who, with their interests range from science to art to whatever. So for me, I felt like it was just grabbing low-hanging fruit by constantly giving basketball. I mean, it was cool,
yeah.
But I hated on it. And to your point, to piggyback off of what you said, instead of complaining about it, do something about it. So when I took a hardcore look at it, instead of hating on it, I said, well, for it to exist the way it exists, a lot of people had to advocate for it. And then when you take a deeper look at it, those basketball programs put a lot of aunts to work. They put a lot of uncles from the neighborhood to work. They serviced hundreds of young people, teaching them how to work on a team, showing them the importance of getting involved in something health related. So overall, it was a good look for the city. So again, instead of hating on it, I said, for all those people who advocated for basketball, pay respect, and then whatever interest you have, and mine was visual art specifically, put that same energy towards trying to make something happen. My interest was art. I was drawing since I was 5 years old, just trying to imitate whatever. And so now that I was older, now that I was but now that I was a gatekeeper, now that I had the responsibility of young people under me, I saw it again as a responsibility to start coming up with programs, how to draw in perspective, what is pointillism, so on and so forth. And so eventually, in Arts in the Park 15 years ago was kind of the evolution of all that.
Okay, so you're talking about like art and kids like being learning how to imitate, learning how to tell stories, learning how to do these things. Like, how important is it, do you think, for kids, for people to tell their stories?
Yeah, no, I love that question because for as much as I love art, I'm a bigger fan of history. And I say this all the time, for any history class that I've taken from grade school level to collegiate level, anytime we take a look at a society that is no longer here, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, or even some that are still here, but just hundreds of thousands of years ago, we will take a look at a lot of times at what we call art. And I'm being respectful because we call it art. We admire it as an aesthetic, but these are serious people, like, the Egyptians, for example, for everything they contributed to society, both back then and now. We've tried, I've seen this a few times, we've tried to imitate, like, say, put the pyramids together with modern technology and modern equipment. It can't be replicated. So to me, these were very, very serious people, but yet and still they use images to tell us, and I'm saying tell us because I think it was intentional, tell us who they were, how they lived, how they loved, what they ate, how they buried or honored their dead, so on and so forth. And you can go around the globe, different communities of people at different times, thousands of years ago, used the same methods. They were carving out little statues. They were painting images on their walls. They were carving images in the walls. Even the cavemen who we're taught were in constant peril or were always in distress mode they had something in them to draw on the walls.
Right.
Again, how they lived, how they ate, how they hunted, and so on and so forth. So for me, art or images are used to chronicle history. And for me, one of my passions is to identify the creatives in our neighborhood. Who are the photographers? Who are the writers? Who are the script writers? Who are the songwriters? Because we need to find individuals to support them to tell our story, because we all know what happens if you leave it to someone else to tell your story.
Yeah, actually, I want you guys to speak on that. Like, Dart, what happens when we leave it up to other people to tell our stories, and why is it so important for, right, like James said, for us to tell our stories in our own way, like our own photographers, own radio stations, own everything? Like, why are those things important for the people in the back?
Well, because if we don't do it, there are people that on the outside that have no idea of the nuance or the history or the timeline or the full context of anything. So when people do like documentaries or TV shows about Boston, you can very easily see what's missing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, because people think Boston culture is one thing.
It's always Mark Wahlberg. It's always South End, or not South End, but South E.
So I
Yeah.
wish it was South End.
Okay.
And because the thing is that's what's palatable. That's what the public knows. So
Right.
they know one part of Dorchester. They know South E. They know the North End. They know the mass whole idea. And the reality of it is, I tell people all the time, I'm like, the so-called Boston accent, which is all over New England, it's a regional accent, was foreign where I lived because everybody was from somewhere else, or from the West Indies. They were from the Caribbean. They were from South America. They were from different parts of Africa, Cape Verde included. So we had folks, we were right near Chinatown. So a lot of people speaking Cantonese, and then like their neighborhood bled into our neighborhood. So we had this multicultural, multi-ethnic existence. I went to the Boston Public Schools. I was in District 7, so I have to tell people I lived the District 7 existence. So I always talk about that side of Boston and that Boston culture. Eating Chef E. Hunt chips, listening to WILD, growing up on Boston funk, being a B-boy, the Kite Festival.
Wait, you're not going to skate past that.
What?
Being a B-boy.
Yeah, I was in the Floor Lords.
You were in the Floor Lords? You're not going to skate
the
past
Floor
it.
Lords started out in my neighborhood via Victoria. I went to the Blackstone. And when I, July 9th, 1981 is the first ABC 2020 mini documentary about hip hop. And we saw the Rocksteady crew. So when the school year started in September, I remember going to the Blackstone, and there was this kid named Fred who was popping and locking and doing all this stuff. And I was like, where'd you learn that? And he was like going to the floor. And I was like, where'd you learn that? He was like, yo, from Lino and them. And I'm like, who is he talking about? And it was the Floor Lords. They had just started in 1981. And I was one of the first or second wave of kids to learn how to b-boy and dance from them.
What? So wait, you can still do it? So yes.
But the thing is that like when you grow
outside.
When you grow up with that history and that culture and that experience, your idea of what Boston culture is wildly different from their idea, because Boston culture can't be found in a BuzzFeed quiz. You have to come to the core and find it. Like going downtown Crossing and knowing you're not going in any store that doesn't have Adidas in the window.
Yeah.
You know, because we're not going there. So you're going to Crystals. You know, you're gonna go to where Down Dudley now is Nubian Square.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna go to Alpha and Omega. You're gonna go to Harry the Greeks in my neighborhood. You know, you're going to go to these different places because I was in an Adidas heavy culture in Boston, right?
Wait for the stripes.
So there's all these different aspects of Boston culture. You know, I talk about Boston funk, soul, R&B, you know, and then jazz. It's as ingrained in the culture of my neighborhood as basketball was, you know, and, you know, as arts were, you know, having like the Children's Art Center right there or the Piano Factory around the corner, you know, so you have the Paul Goodnights of the world, you know the Akua Holmes of the world. You had the Collective with Mr. Crite, Alan Rohan Crite, as I knew him. So when you grow up with all of that, you have a vastly different viewpoint of what Boston is and what Boston's culture is and the richness of it. And it's hard to go back to, this is all we are, Spencer for hire, you know? Like, but you have to ask yourself why when Spencer had to go to certain neighborhoods, he had to call Hawk. You know what I'm saying? And then how come when Hawk got his own show, they moved him to DC? How come they just couldn't do a show about Hawk in Boston?
Right.
Yeah.
So these are the different things you have to think about when you think about Boston. How come we can never be centered? How come we can never be the hero in our story?
But what do you think the answer is?
Because
Why can't we be?
Boston has horrible PR in terms of Black history and culture. Like, I could tell you right now, there's one show that was on cable that centered a Black Bostonian family. It was called Survivor's Remorse. And do you know what they did the pilot episode of that show?
What they do?
They moved the Black Bostonian family out of Dorchester and into Atlanta. Because they thought the only way to have a Black family from Boston be watched by Black Americans and enjoyed is if you take them out of Boston and put them in Atlanta. So it's a fish out of water story, but also they also used to say like sometimes negative and derogatory things about Boston. Because why did they do that? Because the writers knew we are not going to keep a Black audience with a bunch of Black folks that love Boston, because nobody outside of Boston and New England loves Boston. And that's the issue, right? Like, I'll go on Instagram. Like there's a episode, a clip from an episode where they would talk about the Patriots, and there's a white guy in Atlanta, and he was like, yeah, because of the Patriots. He's like, what? We hate the Patriots. And he was talking about two Black dudes talk about they hate the Patriots, and I wrote in the comments, I was like, this is trash. And the only reason it's like this is because they know that Black folks nationwide hate the Patriots. So the only way to identify with these Black Bostonians on this TV show and keep watching the show is for them to bash Boston in some way. And I was always like, we need to make TV shows that highlight everything about Boston is different with people that actually love and embrace their city, because nobody's going to do it if we don't do it.
Period.
And the thing about like culture is that it changes and shifts.
Yeah.
Boston has a sizable Haitian population.
Haitien.
Back in the days.
Let's go.
Back in the days, there were so many of these negative connotations and things about being Haitian, to the point where my Haitian friends used to lie about being Haitian because it was such a negative connotation. Now, fast forward to 96 and 97, the Fugees come out, you have Wyclef Jean, you have, you know, all this other stuff happens. And then all these things happen where all these people come out and it's like, yo, I'm Haitian. And the culture shifts. So by 96, 97, 98, people are proud to be Haitian. They're having the Haitian flag. When Wyclef wins his Grammy, he has a Haitian flag draped over his shoulder. So culture completely shifts.
Yeah.
You watch TVs, you watch TV, you watch film, you watch things now. People are proudly out being Haitian and speaking in Haitian Creole. You know what I'm saying? So there was a shift in 5 years in how people viewed being Haitian.
Right.
And I'm like, there's a reason why these things happen, because they had to.
Right.
And we could do the same thing for media in Boston, but it has to happen, and we have to push for it.
Yeah.
So all the creatives, everybody who makes, you know, media, like when you look at even Boston creators, right?
Yeah.
They're only going to showcase the ones over here. The brown, Black, Asian creators in Boston and Massachusetts, we have to do extra in order to give them light. Otherwise, it's gonna be, the default setting.
Right. And that's why I think it's so dope. That's why I love what James is doing. And I want you to talk just about some of your philosophy around art and storytelling, and you curate spaces for Black art and storytelling here in Boston. You do activations. You're at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, or you've done work there. So I want you to talk about that, because I think it's exactly what Dart is talking about, is that our creatives, we're the storytellers, and we're the ones that's going to shift the conversation and shift the narrative. And that's exactly why I wanted you here. And that's exactly why I'm utilizing my platform to really highlight and amplify people like you and people like y'all who are really changing the narrative in our city. So I just want you to talk a little bit about what else you're doing with your art and some of your philosophies around art, and just how you feel like we can kind of move our Black narrative forward.
Yeah. No, but first of all, salute to you, because you didn't have to be doing this. So salute to you. Definitely
Thank
acknowledge that you could have been covering anything else. I'm sure there's a lot of other content that you probably could have been covering that you felt like would have got you more clicks. So you are definitely a piece of everything you're talking about that is necessary to change. With that being said, I feel like, we live in a city that in my opinion, Boston has been going through a few different renaissance in the last few years. It's definitely, being someone who's from here, it's definitely not what it was 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago. Definitely not. There's a lot of different things going on. There's a lot of individuals doing a lot of dope things in the city. There's a lot of brilliance in the city that's getting highlighted. And it's not just getting highlighted. There's a lot of folks who are taking their platform excuse me, which is it's dope to see. So at any given weekend now, you can in all the different neighborhoods, there are a lot of different events going on, everything from meetups to restaurant tastings, just a whole bevy of things. So I definitely wanted to acknowledge that, the city is filled with a lot of people right now who are doing their thing. You might have to ask your question again.
Okay. So how do you feel like we can move things forward? Because I just want you to talk a little bit about your philosophy of storytelling. Because I think one of the reasons, every time I would have a conversation with you, I'd run into you at parties, at events, and you always got straight to the business. You wasn't talking about nothing else but storytelling, Black people. How do we empower ourselves? How do we move forward? I'm like, that's all this man care about? That's all this man cares about.
That's funny. I'm not sure exactly how those conversations went, but I feel like I don't know. I mean, it's at the surface. So in terms of encouraging it and keeping it going, I feel like just supporting it in the sense of going out, and maybe just adding opinion too, or trying to do your own thing. I mean, I think at the core it's fun. For me, I think it's a responsibility, but I have a lot of people to look into as far as I'll start with my parents who, for all the work they did, when it came time to celebrate, they threw some of the best parties, whether it was graduation, something for Easter, Christmas, or whatever. It was a party, and there was always a prayer had before we ate dinner. There was always an opportunity to check in with family, who was doing what, who was working where, who might have needed assistance, who might have, who has a doctor's appointment coming up, but their kids are not available to take them to translate. So, whose cousin or whose nephew is available to go to the hospital with them. So just in the essence of that, I feel like for what I'm doing, and you talked about, or you mentioned earlier, I don't really consider myself an activist. I'm really careful with that. Just like I don't, when people ask me, am I an actual artist? I'll always say no, because I work with actual artists. I work with people who their 9 to 5, or the only way they're gonna pay their bills is to get their work sold. So I feel like we have to be careful. Black people are very, when we get something and when we focus on it, we're brilliant at it, and we take it to the absolute next level. But we have to define exactly what it is. So in terms of activism, it's something that's very serious. We can sit down and, it being Black History Month, we can list a whole group of very serious people. We had Jesse Jackson, who just passed away. Jesse Jackson was an activist. I am someone who I feel like is just answering a call of responsibility. Like, I'm someone from a particular neighborhood. I have a particular background. Both my parents are Haitian. They came to this country very early on. They worked very hard, and they still found an importance to get involved. Like, my father was a super voter. He voted in national and local elections. He knew what was going on at any given moment in Haiti, of course, because he was always glued to the radio. He was always listening to cassette tapes that family members would send over. So he always had his finger on the pulse on what was going on with Haiti. But at the same time, he can tell you what was going on in Cambridge, who school committee members were, who the city councils were, who our state reps were, and he can tell you what was going on in Boston. That always amazed me. For all the hours you were working for your job, for all the overtime you were doing, you still had all that in you, that you were just spot on with everything that was going on. You didn't have to be.
No.
You could have taken your free time to do whatever, especially since English was your second language. You were struggling with it. So for me, again, the responsibility piece is like, for you to be privileged to live in a country like this, or to live in a city like this, the state of Massachusetts with all the resources, what are you giving back to it? You know what I mean? It's as simple as, like, when you get up on Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings, you clean the house. The city was a bigger extension to our circle. The state was a bigger extension. The country was a bigger extension. So it pretty much is like, you know, no one rides for free in some shape, form, or whatever. You're gonna have to. Well, you don't have to, but it's probably a good idea for you to give your opinion on what you're feeling, and then add your input.
All right. I love that. You said a couple times, in, like, for me, for your dad, that we didn't have to do this. It's like, you didn't have to do this. You chose. So how do you feel? Like, do y'all feel like you chose this path?
Yeah.
Or like, and yeah, tell me more about that.
I mean, I feel like you own it, because some people are like, so much responsibility. Shut up, do it, right? Because I'm a run through the brick wall person, right? Like, my father used to say this thing to me. My father's from Honduras. Used to say,
Honduras.
Yeah, my pops used to say, baby, let me tell you something. This work needs to get done. Somebody got to do it. You know, I nominate me. And he was like, because if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. And he was very, like, my father was a very serious person, to the point where I was like, why is this man so serious? But then I realized, like, all the responsibility he had in life, his family came over from Honduras, they moved here, you know, Spanish is his second Spanish, then he learns English, you know. But my father always says something really interesting, right? He was like, I'm a black man who speaks Spanish. The only difference between me and our neighbors is this slave ship went this way, this slave ship went that way. And in this city, you're going to realize you have more in common than you do differently, right?
Yeah.
And that gave me a big perspective on Boston, because Boston is a city where everybody's from somewhere,
Yep.
right? Even the black folks that came in the Great Migration. You live next to people from everywhere. And when we turned on WILD, we were all listening to the same soca, reggae, calypso, soul, R&B, funk. And that was ingrained in us, in our Boston culture, and jazz.
Yep.
And when in hip hop, we brought all the things in our different backgrounds, in our DNA, in our crates, and our parents' music, and we brought it to what we did.
Yeah.
And that all gave me an idea of what Boston is about and what being black is.
Yeah.
It's everything, right? We take everything, we put it together. And the thing was that I realized later that everybody didn't know we had that in Boston. They knew it was in Philadelphia. They knew it was in Chicago. They know it's in New York. You know, they know it's all everywhere else. But for some odd reason, they think that we are devoid of that. Right? And so growing up, I was always like, how can I change people's perception of my city? And there were people who always like, no, I need to go to New York to do this because I can't do this in Boston. I need to go to California because I can't do this in Boston. And I was like, power doesn't travel. I want to bring everybody here.
Period.
So that's always been my focus. And I am just one of those people that, like, like people talk about me on the OK Player boards. I didn't get on the OK Player boards. I was lurking. The thing that got me on the OK Player boards was somebody was talking trash about Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got,
And he
then
don't
I,
play that.
yeah, then I got, you know, an account, and then I like eviscerated that person. And after I did it, I was like, oh, gotta start posting now. So that's always been like my entry point. Like right now, I write and I do all this other stuff. The reason I do the books I do is because I'm trying to get to a point where I can just do Black Boston stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, I've pitched to people in publishing. I've had literary agents. And every time I pitch them the Black Boston thing, they ask me for comp titles. Comp titles means comparable titles, 3 or 5 book titles that have the same thing that have done well. Doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can it ever exist? It's like, how do I get experience for the job if I don't get the job?
Exactly.
So I need to get to a point where I'm so hot
Yeah.
that they're like, whatever you want to do, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So that's why the things I work on is like, I write a lot about Black Boston history, Black Boston culture, because there needs to be a foundation or a base before somebody's like, hey, why don't you just do something with that?
Yeah.
So it's me running into the brick wall over and over and over again, but I'm going to get through it.
Do you have any person who you feel like is doing this work alongside you? Because it just seems like you're deeply passionate about this work, and it just seems like you're running this race, hitting the brick wall multiple times, and then you're like, okay, well, I have to go back to the drawing board. So now I have to get even hotter. I have to be at the place where no matter what, no one's gonna tell me no. Is anyone else doing this work?
I'm doing this work with a whole bunch of other people. But the thing is that, like, there's a saying where there's smoke, there's fire, right? And when like a region gets hot, or somebody blows up, and then you notice it's like this one act or this one artist or this one person, and then there's another person behind them, then another person.
Yeah.
There was always that community.
Yeah.
That community always existed. You just didn't know about them.
Yeah.
So there are a whole bunch of people working with me, a bunch of creatives and everything else. But I want to get through the door, not for me,
Right.
for them. And so we can change the perception of our city.
Yeah.
Like growing up, there was a guy, I'm sure you know, Ray. He has another name, right? And he wanted to ride off on a white horse and be the hero. And I'm like, no, it ain't about you. It's about us.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the work with a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
I work with them like every day. Like if you see me in an event.
Drop some names.
So there's Janae, there's Sheena Collier, who I just saw last night.
Yeah, they were just on a panel.
Yeah, a beautiful resistance last night. You know, I work with a whole bunch of people that are at Embrace Boston.
Yes.
I'm the I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud. I'm the historic sites chair for Everyone 250.
Okay.
And so we've done markers, historic markers. We did one for Union Church right there in my neighborhood.
That's dope.
We did one for 12th Street Baptist.
Word.
And we're going to do another one for USCS at 48 Rutland on the 27th. And like I get to do that work with a whole bunch of people. My boy Greg Valentino Ball. But my boy, I'm wearing his shirt right now, Pro Black, who I came up with.
Love it.
I wrote graffiti on one side of the pole. He right on the other side of the pole. I look at his side of the pole, look way better than mine.
You were like, oh, this isn't my lane.
Yeah, Soames. So like I grew up with a whole bunch of people that worked in different spaces like arts, music, history. You know, there are people I used to party with that are now, you know, in office. Liz Miranda, you know, like I'm doing this work, Ayanna Presley. I'm doing this work with so many people on different levels.
Yeah.
And I don't lose sight of that. But my specific mission is to do it through media. So we change the perception of Boston. You know how many Boston movies there are that tell different stories of Boston, but the Boston movies everybody knows are up here, and the Boston movies that tell different perspectives of Boston are cult films, and you can't find them, or you gotta scroll forever on Tubi. Like
Not Tubi.
Like Squeeze. When's the last time somebody seen Squeeze? Red, white, and black, black, white, and red all over. When's the last time somebody saw that movie?
Never.
You know, Lift got shown on BET like every so often, right? But like, and then like the other movies about Black Boston are like documentaries.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't normal.
So how do people like get connected, get plugged in? Like if someone listening wanted to help preserve Black Boston history, wanted to do some work with you, Dart, wanted to do some work with you, James, like how do they get plugged in? And also the other question is, what specifically are you kind of looking for from people right now? Like what would be helpful? Like what could people hit you up and say? Like what problem could people help solve for you? Or how could people come alongside you in this work?
Support the National African American Museum at Boston and Nantucket. That's one. The African American, the Black
and
Museum.
by support, tell me what you mean by support. Money?
Go visit, be a member.
Okay.
Do the same at the museum in Beacon Hill. Now, Beacon Hill, there's a lot of Black history in Beacon Hill, the North Slope of Beacon Hill. There's a lot of Black history in the North End, around Cops Hill all the way down to the water. That was the first free or just period settlement, Black settlement in American history. And it was there between 1650 and 1850. You know who knows that? Damn near nobody.
Yeah.
I had to write a piece about it in 2021 for Boston Magazine. And then that's when people started, doing things about it, and then talking about the community there, the New Guinea community. And now people do tours, and I'm like, okay, that's dope. But I get told that, and I'm like, wait a second. So my fixation on that and writing a piece for it from Boston Magazine 5 years ago changed things and moved the needle.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I can do that, one person could do that, then imagine what a lot of us could do. And then another thing, like support Black art, support theater art, support like artists for humanity. Any efforts that like Rob Gibbs does or Soames did. Rest in peace, my man. Who just passed away not too long ago. Like they did things for the community and taught the youth and all that. So any things that are out there for the youth,
Yeah.
the Epiphany School,
Yeah.
support the Epiphany School. Like, there's so many things you could just do right there in your community, right?
Yeah.
That'll go a long way.
Yep.
I went to the Blackstone, a community school. Went to the Quincy, another community school. And they support the entire community, and the people that lived in that neighborhood, the demographic, still live there. Whereas the Harriet Tubman House doesn't exist anymore. It's condos. The Black churches in my neighborhood, they used to support the community. They moved.
Yeah.
With the exception of Union Church, so and like maybe the church, the AME Zion on Tremont, right?
Yeah.
And so when we support these things, we keep them alive. So I don't have to do a tour and walk by this space and say what it used to be.
Right. Right.
Because gentrification is crazy.
That's another topic.
And erasure is wilder.
That part. Erasure. James, tell me, how can people support? How can people get plugged in? How can people go alongside you?
The real basic level would be just to go to my Instagram. My personal Instagram is actionair007. The official Arts in the Park, the official ADS Arts Initiative Instagram is the ADS Arts Initiative. Definitely DM, visit, follow, suggest, say hi, send events. A good way to get plugged in, though, again, the city is small, but marketing in Boston has always been something like a topic of conversation that we kind of laugh about and cry about at the same time. It seems so difficult to 100% know everything that's going on in this small city. It's like you'll have an artist as big as Beyonce come, and sometimes people won't know that she was here until after the fact.
Right. We talked about that with the Miguel, that you only knew about it like the day before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like just try your hardest to, have conversations, share events and whatnot. I feel like, we're headed in a good direction, but, we have a long way to go. So, share something even if you're not interested in it. There's a lot of dope people who are in the poetry space. This is a whole nother conversation, but to kind of allude to what we're talking to, why is it that we're listening to the hottest, latest music from Atlanta, New York, and wherever else? Meanwhile, we have all this talent in the city.
Yeah.
That to me always confused me in terms of I mean, I'm not going to knock all the radio stations and all the DJs. We have had a lot of people over the years who have supported college radio. To me, is probably one of my favorites, but there's a lot of talent in the city.
Yeah.
And I feel like that could be used as an example of all the other things that are going on. But for whatever reason, we look to the outside, like you alluded to a little earlier. But yeah, in terms of support, that would be it. Just, when you see something come out, if you can, patron, because for all the resources we have, for all the money that's put into all the events, they're nothing without an audience.
Yeah.
So please, that's the main way to have it grow, is to show your support.
Word. And I think that's something that I think that James does a great job at. Like, he'll just be sending what I think are random, invites to stuff. I'm like, oh, are you going to pop out? He's like, nah, I mean, I may if I can, but I'm just letting you know so you could go,
Yeah,
like whenever he sees something, he just spreads it. He just sends it to all of his contacts, because it's like, I may not be able to attend, but you may be interested in this and you can attend, or you could pass it on. And I feel like that's dope. Like, when you see something,
see, that's the beauty. That's why I say it's the beauty of Instagram. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of historical.
I saw an interview with you saying that Instagram is God's gift.
Specifically because I write a lot. I don't use emojis. I use words.
Yeah.
I'm 50. And the difference was I could write all these passages, people to see words. Mm-hmm. Instagram, I could use a caption. I could physically show you the picture of this thing and tell you its history.
Yeah.
That hits way harder.
Yeah.
I can tell you what Boston is and what I've experienced it. When I take footage and take a picture of it and show you these brown people in this city, and you it completely changes. Wait a second. That's a bunch of brown people of different hues, different hair types in the space that I didn't know were here. Yeah. I would take video and I would go to YouTube and I'd upload something that happened in Roxbury, Dorchester, South End, Lower Roxbury, Jamaica Plain. And they'd be like, wait, this is happening in Boston? It completely shatters your idea of what it is. That's why I said Instagram was a gift, because before that you had Twitter, and Twitter had TwitPic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you had to go on
I love Instagram.
Yeah. But the algorithm I'm not a fan of.
Yeah. But have you been on TikTok?
I don't do TikTok.
Okay, so let me just tell you about TikTok real quick. Let me just do a little plug for little TikTok. So the thing about TikTok is that there are many different communities on TikTok. Okay, so pretty much whatever you're interested in, you can find a sect in TikTok, right? So it could be like plant people, black people who love plants, black people who love black hoodies, so it's like that your algorithm then becomes just black people who love black hoodies, or black people who love black history. And so that's what's so dope about TikTok, is that people will post their stories, they'll post their individual stories, but then once you frequent a page, like if I'm on a lot of your stuff, if I just look at black history stuff, then it's just going to start feeding me only black history stuff in Boston. And so then you kind of become a part of this little smaller community on TikTok and you find people around the world who are doing the same or similar things to you. That's why I love TikTok.
I do a lot of stuff on Instagram that ends up on TikTok, and kids come up to me on the streets like, you're the guy from TikTok. I'm like, wait, what?
It's good. I'm telling you.
I had it. I got rid of it. I don't think I understood it. I might have to get rid of it.
It's so good. Like, it's just like I think people are really finding their communities there, because it's like, oh, if you like radio, they'll just show you stuff about radio. So now, like, when I travel, like, I'll go to different cities and I'll just look up black people Charlotte, and all the black people Charlotte videos will come up, and then I'll be like, okay, black clubs in Charlotte, and then and it's firsthand accounts, right? Now they could be lying, but it's firsthand accounts of those people, like, in those spaces. So it's like another kind of like connecting point to be like, okay, I am in wherever. I'm wherever in this world, and I'm wanting to find black people. Those people exist. So like they'll be and they're like, yeah, there's black people in Alaska. Yeah, there's black people. So I have a lot of that on my feed. So I'll send you guys some stuff, because I love TikTok and I want you guys to become believers. But in one sentence, in one sentence, what do you want to leave with the audience about Black Boston history in one sentence?
Black Boston history has always existed. Boston was founded in 1630. There were black people here. There is no Boston without black people and black culture, and there will always be black history and black culture in Boston. Is that one sentence?
That's about 5, but we love it still. James?
That's a tough one.
What is one sentence you want to leave with the audience about Black Boston history?
One sentence about Black Boston history. It's definitely worth researching. It's worth researching, and the beautiful thing is that what we're doing now is going to be history tomorrow. So if you don't find yourself invested in doing the research for the past, try to support something that's going on right now to make your own.
And reminder, it's 100th anniversary of Negro History Week, and it's only been 50 years that black history has been taught in schools. And my older brother and older sister were the first wave of kids to experience that.
Wow.
And I came right behind them when I started school in 79, 80.
Wow.
Could I say something that I'm really happy and proud about as I see him walking around doing his diligence?
Yeah.
So David Matthews and his wife Iris are the owners of Kamaya Films. So David is my neighbor. We've known each other for 30, 35 years at this point. So David, I feel like, would be the perfect example of why or what my goal and mission was for Arts in the Park, in terms of, like, he lives specifically in my neighborhood. So when I do Arts in the Park, I work really hard to identify creatives in my neighborhood. David just happened to be a talented photographer. He did it for a little while, but then put it down. I used to hound him and chase after him to put his work in my events. He really didn't feel like it was his lane or it was his thing, but I stayed persistent because I really saw his talent. And now, fast forward to 2025, 2026, he is actively working on content creation. I'm very proud of him from, like, I don't want to say overnight success. We talked about this. There's really no such thing, but I've seen his work in a short period of time for what he does. And as far as his attention to detail, he is really doing his thing out here. So
also support the Big Head Museum, Walnut Ave, Roxbury.
Akiba Abaka is the new
yes, Akiba Abaka
executive director. Is that the title?
Yes.
Definitely support the Big Head Museum. Barry Gaither is definitely someone everybody should get a conversation.
Y'all see how they just know these people? This is why I brought them here, because I don't know these things. I'm very interested in these things, but this is why I brought the experts on.
So Barry
because
Gaither,
these people, their names, Barry Gaither.
When I was involved with the at the Alan Rohan Crite exhibits, Mr. Gaither was also involved, and when we went to the exhibit the first day at the Athenaeum, I'm standing next to my piece reading mine, and he's standing next to his piece reading his. And I was like, Mr. Gaither, I don't know if you understand how much of an honor it is for me to be standing next to you at this exhibit. He's like, young man, you understand how much of an honor it is for me to be standing next to you.
Yeah, no, and he needs all his flowers.
Yeah, I was like, all right, keep it together, dog.
No, if you're interested, he needs a conversation. Like when I just heard from someone who was commenting on the passing of Jesse Jackson and saying that we're losing these icons. So locally, Mr. Gaither, like, humility is what it is. He'll never really promote himself as that. But in terms of years put in, life experience, all the work around, like, what he does, he is absolutely someone who should be highlighted as much as possible.
Going back to the Ella Lewis Center.
Yo, thank you so much. Do you have any questions for me? I like to end it like that. Oh, my sentence for Black Boston history is, Black Boston history is alive and active.
That's a good short sentence.
I'll work on my short sentences.
I ain't gonna.
Any question for me?
Before I ask my question to you, I definitely want to give Daniela a shout out. She's someone she's someone who I've seen grind for a good number of years now to make this happen. This is my first time in this space, and I am very proud. I'm very, very proud walking in this space and just thinking about the work that she put in. I haven't seen her in a while. I hope.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
She was here yesterday, but
she's the person who first brought me to Spark FM back in the old space.
Word.
So yeah.
Yeah, she showed a lot of love in the past. Yeah.
And I just, I love Danielle because she gave me an opportunity to be here. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like she's putting people on, and it gives me the opportunity to do like what my heart's desire is, which is to amplify Black voices and to bring light to creatives and historians such as yourself for us, by us. And so I just feel so honored and blessed to be in this space and to have the opportunity to do this work.
So with that being said, with my question to you is going to be a two-part. How has the journey been for you so far? And what is your ideal scenario as far as the work you're doing? Like for what would you really love to see that you feel like is like the pinnacle for you?
I would say the pinnacle for me is that we have a transformed Boston, similar to what DART is looking to do, is that Black people have always been and always are at the cutting edge of everything. And for that not to be showcased is just terrible. And also for us not to march forward with that as a cloak on us. Like, we don't act like we're the shit. This is morning radio, so I shouldn't have said that. But we don't act like we are those people. Not everyone, not all of us. And it's like, we are though. Like, history shows it. Like, everything that we get into, we're maximizing it. We're elevating it. We're innovating. We're taking it to the next level. And yet and still, we don't know our power.
When has Boston and Massachusetts ever made any true progress without us having to drag Boston and Massachusetts across the finish line, kicking and screaming,
Yep.
and then they take the credit for it?
Yep. And so I just, my goal is for, yes, a transformed Boston, but also a transformed people, not just in Boston, but from the inside out. Black people really understanding and knowing who they are and like having that power about them. And the way that the journey has been is I've just been giving myself grace through the process. Like, I'm like, I'm new to this. I don't know everything, but I know people who do know more than me. So I'm going to highlight those people. And I think that just giving myself, it's like a very steady kind of like equilibrium of trying to be like, okay, I'm going to give myself grace, but I'm going to push forward. I'm going to give myself grace, but I'm going to push forward. Like, I don't know everything. I came across Dart on the internet. I met you in the streets, and it's just like, okay, these men know what they're talking about. And I'm not going to, there's no man bashing today. So I'm not going to go there.
Oh,
but
man.
yeah, we're not doing that today. But I'm like, these men know what they're talking about. These are educated Black men, and they are for the cause. And so I am wanting to highlight them, and so
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know what? You just made me think about the ICA is doing a AMARP exhibit right now. I feel like that would be something very in terms of Black history, local artists, local creatives that stretch back into a few years ago. AMARP, I feel like you all should Google it if you don't know what it is.
How do you spell that?
It's an acronym. So what is it?
It's the residence program.
Yeah.
The residence program was at Northeastern.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it stretches back to how long ago?
1970.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even remember dates. When was I even born? I don't even know. But yeah, this is why you need to follow these men. Real quick. Plug your Instagram.
Dart_Adams.
DART_ADAMS. And
Actionair 007.
okay, that's Action ACTIONNAIRE.
It's a French word.
Actionair.
Actionnaire. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate your wealth of knowledge. And
Hey, anytime we get the opportunity to take the 31, I'm gonna do it.
the third is that what you had to take
Yeah.
to come up here?
Yeah.
Okay, I only know the 28.
Good Lord. Oh, so you missed the era when everybody was taking the buses with the gun numbers. That's great.
Yep.
9, 22, 23, 25.
Yep. And I'm a 22 girly too. I live in Dorchester. Well, I'm from Dorchester, so. But yeah, all right. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Thank you for
Thanks for having us.
All right, I'm turning off your mic. All right, thank you guys so much for being here. We're past our time. It's 10:05 a.m. But you are here with me, your girl, Keisha the Entertainer, right here on Spark FM. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys so much for being here. And with that, I will see you next week.
Music, and you will find it here.
The all new Spark FM.
S.